Hi guys, it's Nancy, and today we're going to be playing with this Flying South stamp set from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. And in this, it's a two-part stamp set. You get the trees on one side, and then you get these flock of V formation geese. Okay, and you'll have to forgive, I sound a little congested because I am fighting some allergies. All right, so I thought it would be fun. I did this one with Pan Pastels. And I love how it came out with all of the different colors. And I used the cloud stencil. But I thought this would look really cool with some alcohol ink. So we're going to try that out. I have my nonstick mat down. I have some alcohol wipes in case I need them. We're going to pull out a piece of Yupo. This is the Tim Holtz alcohol ink Yupo. Okay. And I think I want to use I was going to grab the Marabou inks, but that's not what I want. Hold on. Okay. I grabbed the wrong ones. Okay. Here's my little tin of alcohol inks. And I have mixed in here my Ranger alcohol inks along with my Pinata inks. I do have my Marabou inks because they do have some pretty like shimmers in them. I don't know if they're going to move around or not, so we'll wait and see. I do have some alcohol and some blending solution in case we need those. And I did this once before, but we'll see if I can remember how to do it. So I kind of want this ombre look, you know, red, orange, yellow. So I guess we'll start with yellow as our lightest color. We have Dandelion, Sunbright Yellow. We're going to try that. The Pinata ink looks a little bit lighter. And we're basically just going to smush it down on our mat here. Okay. Then I want some orange. We're going to go with the Pinata Calabaza Orange. Same thing. Smush it down on the mat. Oh my gosh, these things need to be cleaned. If you don't clean them, what happens is as the alcohol evaporates, they get crusty. And then it's hard to put the lid back on or take the lid off. So these are alcohol wipes, not regular cleaning wipes, but alcohol wipes. And look how nice and clean that takes care of that. So we always want to try to take care of our tools because the last thing we want is for that to get stuck on there and then we can't get that off. That's a lot better than it was, that's for sure. Okay, you guys know I like to keep my stuff pretty neat. All right, and then I need some reds. I'm going to do this. Where's that watermelon? I think I like the watermelon better. Hold on. Oh, we're going with this one, Ember. Ooh, terracotta. And I kind of should be working a little quicker here because my alcohol ink is already starting to dry on the mat. Okay, terracotta. A little bit of that. Then we'll go into Ember. All right. Now, I may or may not have enough colors down. We will know here shortly enough. And then we're going to add darker red, cranberry. Actually, we'll go into some purple because the sky goes like reddish and then into some purple. I don't have purple in front of me. Maybe not. What's this one? All right, better not mess with that. Okay, now we're going to spray this with some, we're going to add some blending solution, okay, because we want to reconstitute those colors, and we do kind of want them to run around and mix with each other. This may work, this may not work. It's been a while since I've done this. But I like the blending solution because it's not going to dilute our colors. All right, now what we're going to do is slap our Yupo paper down, and then from the center, just kind of do that. Work our way into pushing that color around underneath so that it mixes with each other. Use a little bit of an alcohol wipe here to clean up some of that extra that's smearing out the sides there. All right. Cross your fingers. Now, if you lift this way, all the color will run upward, and if we pull from the top down, all the color will run down. I do want to lift from the bottom up because I want the lighter colors to go into the darker colors instead of the darker colors to overtake the lighter colors. So I'm going to lift from the yellow and go up, and that looks pretty cool. It's not as dark as I was hoping it would be, but I am not mad at that. I really do like that. I think I'm going to dip in right here and try to get some more of the red in there. I really like the yellow. I'm going to leave that alone, but I'm going to add some more of that darker color in there. So to do that, I'm just going to go in here, dip, 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 lift, and you can see we got that color in there. All right. And then, of course, if you want it to dry, you can take your airbrush tool and your air pump tool and pump into that, or you can just let it dry naturally, or you can use your airbrush and blow that dry. But it'll dry pretty quickly because it is alcohol ink. Now that looks pretty good. I don't think I want to mess with that anymore. I even kind of like this, like it almost looks like a horizon. All right, we're going to put that down. We're going to leave that one alone, and we are going to just clean up our mess here with these alcohol wipes. And again, these alcohol wipes are nice too because if you get any of that alcohol ink on your fingers, it makes it a lot easier for cleanup. And if you want it darker, you go in and you add darker colors. If you want it lighter, you go in and you add more blending solution and you make it lighter. Now this is not completely dry yet. We're getting there. Okay, now I'm going to cut this down. Well, I'll cut it after I stamp it. So we're going to bring in my Tim Holtz Tonic Stamp Positioner because this is the one I like to use with my rubber stamps. I think I like it better this way because that almost looks like the sun. And this almost looks like a mountain. I'm going to go with it that way. I'm going to make that my sky, and this is the ground. We're going to go with that. Okay. And then for our tree, you can see that it kind of has a branch like going upward. So you can put that in the corner here. And then, like I said, I'll cut it down once I'm done. Okay, now the ink that I'm going to use may surprise some of you because I would normally go for like archival or StazOn or something, but I have found that the Catherine Pooler Midnight ink is archival, and so it will dry even though this is a coated surface. I have my Blue Night Rubber Stamps handle on the back. It's going to give me a nice deep dark black coverage. I like the stamp positioner because then nothing's moving as I stamp on the Yupo paper, because the Yupo paper is synthetic plastic. It's plastic paper, synthetic paper. So you can see that the stamp normally wants to stick and pull up, and by having the stamp positioner, I can re-ink and stamp again and not have to worry about the ink pad or the stamp sliding around on the paper. All right, that looks pretty good. We're not going to mess with that anymore. Clean my stamp up. This is a great accessory stamp to have just for any kind of scenery that you're doing, because you can make it look like you're peeping through trees, like if you're doing a scenery. Anytime you need to add just a little bit of something, you can just easily stamp this around and put trees around the edge of your design. Okay, and then the second stamp that comes with this set is this V formation of geese. So they're pretty easy. You just kind of lay them down and you can see that V formation. Okay, same thing, gonna ink up. I hope I don't have them upside down. That would really suck if I stamped them upside down. No, I think they're good. Well, they kind of look like they're flying up in the air. They're taking off from the ground down here. I needed to move that angle down a little bit, but it's not a complete fail. We can work with that. Okay. Wrong direction, Nance. You guys won't tell, right? And again, Blue Knight Rubber Stamps makes these rubber stamps right here in the United States in Maryland. So, oh, did I take my rag and whack that? Probably. Smeared my ink a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm going to let this dry. We can also take our little puffer tool, help it along a little bit. I'm going to cut the top of that off because that's clearly where I messed up. I must have used the rag in it when I was cleaning the stamp, wiped that. So be careful of that. Now, I don't recommend that you take a heat tool to this unless you have a low power heat tool. Keep it at a distance because, again, this is Yupo paper, so you could melt it or cause it to curl. Okay, I have dried that for a few minutes on the low setting. It is still a little tacky. So I'm just going to take a piece of copy paper and very gently just rub over that. And then what that should do is just kind of lift some of that extra tacky ink off of there. But it was pretty, for the most part, getting dry. It would have taken a couple more minutes to complete that or let it sit overnight. And you can see it lifts some of that excess ink so it will dry a little quicker now for me. And I'm going to cut this down to 5 1/4 by 4 very carefully. Trying to be careful where I put my fingers too because I have ink all over my fingers. I knew that was going to happen. That's my own fault. Well, I will have to put a sentiment over that. So we're going to leave that alone because I don't want to smear anymore. But what I would do then is just kind cut this down a little bit more to size to 5 1/4 by 4. Once it is completely dry, I'm going to stamp out a sentiment to cover my little boo-boo there. Now you can take a little bit of a little felt, what's that little felt dauber tool called? Here it is. The little detail blending tool. These are from Ranger. And if I wanted to be precise, I could go in there with a little bit of blending solution just to lift some of that black out. I would not do a whole bunch, just a tiny bit. I mean, a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And you can see how it lifts that right out of there. Now I'm taking the dry end and just kind of smearing it. But it lifts that black right out of there. And you only need a very little bit. And then I take the dry end, I flipped it to the other side to the dry end. So then what it does is it just kind of re-puts that color in there. You could actually go back in and add some more color, some more alcohol ink. But it's almost like an eraser. So that way we don't have any black shining through. Be careful, I just touched the ink there with that. But anytime you're using Yupo, you need to be really careful with how much ink you use and how long you allow that ink to dry. Even with the StazOn and the archival ink, they take a few minutes to kind of dry. And I'm just going to kind of erase my boo-boo here a little bit. And then, like I said, go in with clean one and blend it out. Let me grab a little bit of that ink. Did I put the ink away? Where'd I put the ink? It's right in front of you. I always try to find ways to save my projects when I mess up. So I'm going to grab the lighter yellow, just a drop of it. And again, go in with a clean tool, pick some of that up, and just dab that back in there. And again, most of this is probably going to be covered up by sentiment anyway, so it's not going to be seen. I'm just going to kind of blend some of that line out where that orange is. So just the colors there, and that some of that black is not so harsh, where I have a harsh line here where that alcohol was moved by the blending solution. I'm just going to go in and add some more alcohol ink and blend it back out. You do this with a Q-tip as well. All right, so now, you know, I still have some of that color. I'll put a sentiment there and I will cover that up. And then I will have my card scene done. All right, so hopefully you'll learn something to try out. This is a lot of fun doing a lot of different colors, alcohol inks, because it's so abstract. You never know what you're going to get. Not as dark. Just a little bit of color. So it's not so stark white. And we'll make this one a little deeper. All right, that looks good. Let's glue these two together. See, these are the things I do after the scenes when I'm done filming that you guys don't get to see. And since I still had the camera ready, I was like, you know what, let me just add this on here for you guys. Okay. Oops, I'm gonna leave that out. Okay. Do you need to still cut my panel down? I believe it is mostly dry now. Where's that piece of paper at? Yeah, pretty good. I don't think we're going to have too much smearing. We're just cutting off the edge here. I cleaned my cutting rail here, so I'm going to cut this down to 4. Chop off the top of our blurb there. Okay, so we have 5 1/4 by 4 panel. I can now mount this on my card, and I will have a little bit of a white border, just so you guys can see how this is going to look. That looks pretty good. And now we are going to glue this right over our little smudgy smudge there. Right here. And most people are not even going to notice. There we go. All right, so now you can vote on which one you like better. Do you like the alcohol ink one, or do you like the pan pastel one? Maybe you changed your vote, maybe not. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Keep on stamping. Bye-bye.